Wilder Girls. So here we are, Linnea, Ebba, Sandra and me, Kerstin.
Hello!
Hello! Wilder Girls is this book, and it's about a school for girls on an island. And something happens, and animals and also the girls are getting sick. They call it the tox, and they are quarantined on this island. And they get supplies from the mainland, but it's just enough for them to survive. And they have a really hard time, and they can't contact their families, and they don't understand what's happening. So it's very and it's a young adult kind of just learning about life from a very hard point.
Say the least.
Yeah, just trying to survive. So we start with you then, Linnea. What did you think about it?
How about the book?
Generally,
Yes. I haven't completely finished it. I have around half an hour left on the audiobook. I think I like the environments. It's very, the sort of the strange forest and the strange wildlife and everything. I think that's really cool and really sort of evocative. Really sort of puts pictures in your mind that I think is very fascinating. I'm probably not quite as sold on the characters themselves. But I guess we'll get more into detail on that later. So I don't love the book, but there are parts of it that I do enjoy. So.
I like it a lot, so it's a reread for me. So 1 or 2 years ago I read it the first time, and I still think it holds up. I was a bit worried that I wouldn't like it the second time around, but I still found quite a lot of enjoyment out of it. I think I think they call it horror. I don't know if it's really scary or something like that. But it does contain like some good, like strange things that happens to the body that are kind of like that evokes that yucky feeling. Yeah.
It's body horror more than scary horror.
Definitely. And I do also think that the sort of the mystery that's going on the island, you want to sort of know what's happening and why it's happening. And I don't think the book tells you exactly everything, which I think is good, while still sort of describing a lot of things, because it's a young adult book, so I think it needs to sort of cater to that audience more, and none of us are unfortunately young adult.
you're the baby in the group,
right? By 1 year. So I think it does what it sets out to do. I do think that it falters a little bit by the end of it, but we can't really get into that because we're two guys who haven't finished it.
I'm fine with spoilers, so don't mind me.
But by then maybe it's not so much of an issue anymore. But I like it a lot. What it's want to do, I think it does. So,
I think so as well. I really like the book, and I have 3 chapters left, and it's very stressful because I'm not sure how they will tie it all together. There are a lot of unanswered questions that I want to know. But I've enjoyed it a lot, and there's 2 characters we follow in the book, and I must say I like following the one we get the most answers from more. But it is a young adult book, and it feels very young adult. But the ambience in the book is just so good. I've enjoyed it so far, and it was a little bit tough to get into in the beginning.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah. But the longer you get into it, the easier it gets to just keep on reading, and I want to know what's happening. Why isn't it like this? Kerstin.
Yes, it definitely interests me, and I also want to know a lot about what's happening. Now I have finished it, but I think it actually takes a really long time until we really get some answers. Just feels like in the last chapter, am I wrong? Yes, so it really holds you to that journey too. But it wasn't interest me really enough. I don't know if I'm too old for it or I don't know, but it didn't really interest me. But it wasn't badly written or anything, but it just didn't hook me completely.
For me, if I can butt in here,
Sure.
there's a very specific trope that is in the book that I hate.
Oh, do you?
Uh, Am I gonna get into it right now? Or
Yeah,
go
sure.
for it?
Do
Okay,
it.
okay. So I haven't read the conclusion of the book yet, so I don't quite know how all the details play out. But at the point where I'm at in the book, it seems like the quote-unquote bad guys are evil scientists kind of people, and I dislike that
Right. Yeah.
story point so much because I'm just like, you don't understand how scientists work. It's not like this. I can accept it if it's just one guy. You know, you have like in cartoons, etc. You have like the evil scientist,
Or
and
the mad scientist.
exactly the
Right.
mad scientist. Yeah, I can get behind that. That's fine. But when you have like this, it's an evil organization and they are experimenting and it's evil, you know.
Like the umbrella company.
Kind of like that, yes. I'm just like, that would never actually happen. Do you realize how much personnel you need and how much equipment you need, and you just can't do that? Oh. I don't like it. And also I dislike how it is a trope. How often you encounter that kind of scenario in a book. Because I do think it sort of shows a fear towards science and scientists and progression in a way that I don't like. I think it's sort of anti-intellectual in a way. So yeah, I don't think this book is the biggest sinner when it comes to that. But I was kind of disappointed when I got to that point. I was like, oh no, they're going this route. Oh, like because the sort of the environment around this, because it takes place in a school on an island, it's very isolated, and the wildlife and the flora surrounding this, and even the girls at the school, you know, they are changed. And you were talking about body horror, for example. It's very much that. And in the beginning, it made me think of Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation.
Yeah, me too. I've not
really
read the
like
book,
that.
but I've seen the movie, and that is what I pictured when I read this book.
But I think what Jeff Vandermeer does is he keeps it mysterious much longer and sort of more. He knows how to play with those themes a little bit better than this book, because this book sort of. I think I would have liked it if there were more mysteries left in the end, because some of the things that are answered, I'm just like rolling my eyes out.
Alright. I do kind of feel like that's sort of young adult angle with it. But not to say that young adult books always explain everything, but the ones I've read, I do feel like they do have a tendency to explain things just a bit clearer. There would be ways to sort of hint at the things going on here, and they do in the beginning, and then they could sort of leave it at that, but they don't. They do explain most things in the end, with still some room for like a second book to explore it more, I think. But if you should or not is another discussion though. But I totally get your point, and I think that's a good using Annihilation and Wild Girls to sort of have compare like an adult book that it's only geared towards adults and something that's a young adult book and it's more like handling things a bit differently. They are a good comparison that way.
Yeah, because if the scenario in this book had been that the girls were at this school on this island and suddenly the nature started to change, no one knows why. It's alien, I don't know. It's mysterious, it's unknown, it's foreign. that would have been so much cooler, I think. But now it's just like, yeah, well, you know, someone's just making, like, experimenting on them.
However,
However,
I do think that, because I don't know if you're at that point yet though.
probably not.
So this could be kind of spoilery though.
Fine.
But and this is the trails here are kind of obvious to it. But you know the flowers. There are some purple flowers and some
Crabs.
Mm.
and those two have been around on the island for quite some time.
Yeah.
But it turns out that there are like the scientists and also the school has kept charts of the temperature and how it's risen over the years,
Okay.
over quite some while, like for many years.
Mm.
So I think like a conclusion in the main character's head is like, oh, so when certain animals and flora and things have started to sort of creep down, like they've sort of not defrosted or anything, but they've moved to areas where they haven't been before, where it's inhabited and more like or changed in that way. So, and then as changes sort of started to happening, the scientists like, oh, what's happening there? So it's kind of like Annihilation in that way.
Okay,
but
okay, well,
Annihilation is more like alien invasion almost,
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of. So I think it works.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah,
Sounds good.
just as an aside there.
Well, if you just go back to what I was saying, that because it didn't really hook me, and the problem with audiobooks that you sometimes maybe don't really listen and you miss things, because this really happened to me in this book. So I think it's a lot of things that I didn't really understand. So
Yeah, and especially when
maybe I need some.
yeah.
Mosquitoes and the Coca-Cola, everything.
Oh no!
It's okay.
Yeah, especially with the girl where you get the answers, Byatt. Her chapters, if you want to look at it in the book later, they are really cut off. It's written in such a way that it's supposed to make you confused, and because she is so confused. So especially in the audiobook, I can see those parts being extremely difficult to
But
listen.
were they experiment on? Because I really didn't. I believe that the whole book they were experiment on, but then in the end I wasn't sure.
I think they sort of let
It happens.
This video is going to be quite an experience for me, but I think they sort of noticed that the wildlife was getting influenced and changed by the crabs and the flowers and everything, like
The parasite. Was that
yes,
what they
the
was?
parasite, yes.
Mm.
And then they said they just let it happen, like keep happening. So they
And
didn't
it's
like
only on this island.
yes.
the Raxter phenomenon.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
But the way I interpreted it, and I also listened to the audiobook, and I'm well known for missing details when I listen to audiobooks, but the way I interpreted it was that the evil scientists, they weren't so much experimenting on the wildlife and the flora, but the fact that they make sure that the girls stayed on the island. You know, that was the experiment
That's
on the humans
yes.
there.
I didn't understand the thing about the food being contaminated. And how did Welsh know this?
Because the bags and everything were open, and some of it were just plain bad. And I think they just, I don't know if they had put like medicine or things in them, but maybe they just wanted to see what happened.
Yeah, and maybe they had a communication with the teachers that, all right, we know this has happened to you, and we want to experiment, or not use the word experiment, but we want to test some theories. And when the teachers just no, you can't do that.
Well,
mass.
one teacher, not the other.
Yeah. I'm not sure how it was in the beginning when more were alive.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she put her foot down. So
Because in the beginning I was like, why don't they have food? I used to think that's just ridiculous. I don't understand why is the world
Right.
working. But then that got answered.
But
So
it does kind of feel like something the author thought was kind of cool, and also kind of made them like get a bit competitive against each other and sort of increase their level of
Yeah.
anxiety and sort of stress and everything. So I don't think it makes 100% sense even when it's explained. I do think it was just something that felt cool.
The way I've seen this book marketed is as Lord of the Flies, but feminist. And I'm not quite sure I agree with that take.
I haven't read Lord of the Flies though, so
No,
I'm gonna.
I
Me
have read
neither.
it, but it was really long time. We had to do it in school for some reason. But I mean, that's really mean. The group is like that's
Yeah.
more like we have to survive and
Yeah, exactly.
And no adults also, right?
No,
No.
exactly.
So, and here they do like they
Yeah.
follow.
yeah, they follow
teachers
rules.
is, like,
Yeah.
to a
No,
point,
exactly.
so-
So I don't know. It's not.
Because what I feel here is that the conflict is more between the girls and the grown-ups, both the teachers on the school and the evil scientists, and the girls and the environment.
Mm.
But it's not so much between the girls themselves.
No, just a little bit. But
Yeah, just
but-
about the
but-
food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're right.
But if this
Just the food.
if this really was trying to emulate Lord of the Flies,
Yeah.
there would be much more. It would dig much deeper into the interpersonal conflicts
Yeah.
between the students, between the girls, and I don't feel like this one does.
No, that's marketing.
So yeah,
No, the world building.
okay.
So we do the.
Yeah, but you were looking at Sandra.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Sorry.
Let's switch things up.
So yeah, the world building. Probably the part that I like the most, at least when it comes to, well, I'm gonna be repeating myself here, but the environments, the forest, the island, the nature, and everything there. I really like those parts. They're really strange and sort of gross in some cases. The one of the main characters here, I think, sort of what's portrayed here on the cover. She describes in the beginning of the book that she has something growing behind her eye and it's sort of moving and it's
Yeah, and it's crusty also,
Yeah.
like sewn up, and it's like it's pussy and disgusting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's
Um,
natural.
Sure.
Puberty.
But then the world building in terms of the scientists or the navy or everything from the mainland who are involved with this island, that I don't like, because that I don't think it just wouldn't work that way. Like you're sort of asking yourself, well, why are they doing this? Why aren't they doing step A, B, and C? Because that would make more sense, and then we would have these people who would stop them from doing this and doing this, and you know, it's yeah. The assumed society that I imagine exists outside of this island, that society doesn't make sense. But what happens on the island in terms of world building, I think it's really cool. Yes.
Yes, I agree. Mostly, I think like the way the characters describe what happens in their bodies and the sort of the flare-ups that they get when I don't know if it's kind of when they have their menstrual cycle or something, but it's kind of like it has that feeling, and I think it's really cool to sort of play around with that concept, and also like how the man, there was one man on the island and he was like grown up and everything, and he couldn't, like, he got the tox real bad and fast also because the scientists sort of figure out that estrogen plays a part somehow. It sort of makes the turning easier in a way, and which also makes the teachers react differently to the tox, because their hormones aren't raging the way that it does in these young girls, and I think that works excellently.
Mm.
The weird ways that their bodies transform is kind of like morbidly wonderful to read about and like yucky at the same time. But it's described really well. But I do also have some small gripes when it comes to the mainland people, the Navy and the scientists, the CDC and whatever, because it seems like they, for example, don't have a contamination procedure where they have maybe like boats around the island checking if someone has escaped or anything. They haven't sent out materials to sort of make the fence around the school more stronger. I think they say that it is really strong, but the nature is also really violent, so I would assume that you would need to counteract that with some more measures. Maybe more guns. It's America after all, so why not send some of those over to this island? Also the food thing, even though it's explained to make sense kind of in this world, I still don't really buy it. I think it would probably be better if then someone hoarded it more. I do think the headmistress was hoarding some of it, but like not in the same way, like because you didn't have to do with the boat people, but whatever. So and also like the CDC sort of leave the main island really fast also, and they don't have I don't know what their procedure is after that. Like they just leave everything. It's kind of weird. So I assume that the circle, this is my own logic that I'm filling out to sort of make the sense of things, but I assume that the circle around the island has gotten way bigger. So they've just sort of like, okay, we're moving, our frontier is backing away from this area right now, like it's getting worse. But I would still assume that you would have maybe drones or something. I don't know. But it doesn't mess with the flow of the book. It doesn't mess with how the characters interact with each other. It's just these things don't make sense if I think about them. So yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get your chance to speak later, Sandra, but I just want to butt in here because speaking of the mainland, you know, we do see the girls sort of trying to get off the island, but we don't see anyone from the mainland trying to get on the island.
No.
And humans are insatiably curious. Some people will go like, something strange is happening on that island, I'm gonna get on it, you know, for no other reason other than it's a challenge or something, you know. It's sort of like when you go into abandoned houses, etc. You know, that kind of scenario. And also these girls, I mean, some of them have families on the mainland or adults they know who should worry about these girls and try to figure out, you know, why can't my daughter get off this island? What's going on? You know, maybe they are doing that, but we don't get to see it. And I would have liked to have seen that because
the only explanation we get for that is that the parents have been told that they are dead.
Yeah.
But then I would still assume that they would like want the body or
Bodies.
something.
Yeah, exactly.
So
But
I don't know.
maybe they get the ashes. We needed to burn the bodies, but here are the urns with
Smart.
your
True.
children.
But they could
Mourn in peace.
explain that more, I think.
Yeah.
This kind of big secret can't stay secret. It's
No.
too physically big.
Yeah.
And
So-
it's also happened for too long of a time because I can absolutely buy a few months. Just look at how like COVID went down, but
Not
it's
for
been a year and a half now, and it's kind of weird.
And I think the girls would rebel a lot more over time to not know anything. It's and they also it's a modern time. They should have cell phones and things like that. I just so it's a lot of things. If you think about it, doesn't make sense, and that's also why I kind of like I don't really buy this. I can understand the fun of it, but it doesn't really speak to me.
Yeah. I can also, however, like if we're just thinking like this is how the girls interpret what they are told, like what they are told about the food, what they interpret from what the headmistress says, like what they read and how they interpret things, and like their brains aren't finished. Like we don't know if there are things that are happening, and the girls just don't get it told to them so they can understand what's happening. maybe there are things that is going on, and we just like we don't get that information because we don't have a bird's view. We always get the things from
The girl's
Yeah.
perspective.
and there is no other, like for example there is a character called Teddy who befriends one of the girls who ends up at the mainland.
But
with the CBC
is
to
she
get-
really on the mainland?
I think it's the mainland, or it's
They
like
ta-
the
they talk-
peninsula, whatever.
They talked
visiting
about that
center.
they didn't get off the island.
Yeah, it might
was
have.
some-
It might have been on like on one side of the island or something. I don't remember exactly that part. But if we had had his perspective also, then we could have gotten like more specific things that were happening from the scientists and the sort of the politics happening in the background.
Yeah.
But we don't. So one could view it like that as well when reading it, I guess. But
No, we've touched on so many things, or you have, so I'm not sure what else to add.
opinionated corner over here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we are podcasters
Yes.
usually, but yeah.
We love the sound of our own voices.
No, but I like the world building, but there are a lot of potholes that you've dug up. But some books you just have to go with the flow, and especially when it comes to the food. I don't see why they get moldy bread and moldy fruit
No,
and
I don't
stale
understand that.
cookies and things like that. If you're sending food, send good stuff. I mean,
It's kids.
yeah, right.
It's a,
So kids.
fucking
food.
me.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. But
No.
there's also a lot of other bigger things that doesn't make sense.
The thing is that well, maybe not all of these things that we've talked about, but some of these problems are so easily explained. Like, for example, they don't have cell phones because they're not allowed on the school,
Yeah.
or the tox on the island affects technology. You know, you can explain that in a sentence, and address it somewhere in the book. And regarding the food, it could be something like, when they enter the area of the tox, they
Yeah,
sort of
something like that. Yeah.
age faster, so they get moldy faster, or
Right.
something like that. You know, it can be
Yeah.
explained,
Yeah.
but it isn't explained, and that's sort
Or
of what it is.
If they just gotten the food like once a month, then the bread would get moldy, and they would have to ration the bread, so the bread would get moldy, and they would still have to toss out the things that they still have been tampered with because they don't want to eat those things.
Yeah, right. But
So-
I don't understand why do we need that part? Why does it have to be so shitty for these girls? I mean, they are shitty anyway. I mean,
Is
their
it?
body's
And-
changing, and
And
why
they're
do
barely
we
getting like
need it?
first aid kits and things like that.
Yeah, and
also.
I don't understand why that has to be an element. Why
Is
that
it, and
better?
the rest of you kind of have to help me out here with the details.
Yeah.
Is this just another experiment by the scientists? Are they trying to create sort of the Lord of the Flies situation on the school?
I didn't
because of-
understand really.
No, but
Can I?
yeah.
I know because I know they mentioned it. Go on now. This
Yeah,
is like the one.
Because if the scientists have created this experiment where they want to study the behavior of these girls who are affected by the tox, then they might want to create a certain social situation that makes them able to study that thing.
But I
I'm
don't
just
know.
theorizing here.
Yeah, I
Could this
understand,
be
but
something like
I
that?
don't think
understand.
so, because they send so much food. I think they mentioned they toss about 60% of the food in the ocean. So there's a lot of food that doesn't get to the school. But it's also the food that's tampered with. So I think they just add stuff, medicine of some kind to experiment. And that is the part they want to
okay.
experiment
Yeah.
with. How does the girls react with this kind of medicine? Or this...
But I don't understand what the goal is for this scientist. I didn't understand really what they wanted. The doctor that Byatt,
No, Byatt, yeah.
she said something about they wanted to study.
The Raxter phenomenon. Because
yeah.
they started with the flowers and the crabs, and then it just went downhill with the talks, and yeah. So it's interesting to study things like that from the beginning, but when things escalates, they need to take
Action.
the action quicker, I guess.
So they were actually looking at this island long before.
Yeah.
Okay. See,
So
I missed a lot
there
of
is a
detail.
part here in like it kind of relates to the food.
Mm.
So this is when Reese and Hetty has they're talking to the headmistress and shit has gone absolutely down, and so the headmistress says something like this. So they can't cure this. Maybe if they've been able to do a broader range of testing, and then Hetty says a broader range. It's knocking at some memory I can't quite find, and I shut my eye, filter through the last few days until it comes burning back. Welch on the pier that day, right before she died. They wanted to test all of us, to experiment on the food, she said, but she wouldn't let them. So basically, I just think that they messed with the food, and they wanted people to get sick, because if they got sick, then they would send the girls to the CDC center and experiment on them or something. I think it's not any more intelligent than that. I think they just wanted them to get sick.
I understand that the parasite was trying to make them better in some way, but I didn't understand. I did understand the thing about the girls getting gills.
Yeah, the
But
evolution.
what's with the eye? I don't understand what.
Well,
No, it was like because she didn't know right then that there was a parasite. So the parasite was probably maybe it had entered from there or something, like it originated there, and it just grew there on her.
Oh, okay.
But then it moved down, so it just
yeah, I think they mentioned somewhere in the book that the girls got aspects from the island.
yes.
So the gills and the claws and all those things are from nature and evolution, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Evolution needs to happen in some ways, and sometimes evolution stops because
Yeah.
it just breaks into a wall.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
less good.
Exactly. Yes.
So they just think that okay, we can't cure this, so we take the opportunity to look at. That's the premise.
Maybe. I didn't read it as they wanted the girls to get sick. I thought they wanted to just test.
Just test on them.
Yeah, different
But
kinds of
unless-
medicine, and
Yeah.
is it able to get cured, or is it possible to get more gills, or
Yeah, because that was
How many
I was
gills can we
believing that
get?
they wanted
Yeah.
them to be like better.
and especially when
Superhumans.
when it comes to navy and tropes where you want to make superhumans.
Exactly. That's what I was believing.
Right.
Today.
Gills in the navy, you can do a lot of underwater missions like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Aquaman.
If these scientists
Yeah.
wanted to try different medicines on the girls through the food,
Yeah.
it's so ineffectual.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yes. Eat it. And
yes,
that's
yes,
why,
and how are they sure it would work orally? And
How are they
How-
even like
they
watching the
should.
results?
These scientists should go on an island, take a sample, put that sample in an assay, and then test the assay with hundreds of medical compounds at the same time, and they
But they
then you
did.
get it.
They did.
Yeah. It says in
They
here
take their
that
blood.
they took the blood from the girls in the beginning, and the temperatures and everything like that. So they have.
Okay.
They have samples,
Okay.
but
They have it.
Even scientists.
But I don't
yeah.
understand anything about the
Scientists.
food.
evil scientists don't know how to science.
Or is it just newbie scientists? This is their trial run.
Would you leave something like this in the news? Like the interns, like the unpaid interns.
This is your test to get
Strange
your
island where people are getting like wooden hearts and everything. Here, go have fun.
Not fun, just prove yourself.
Also, the sort of the procedure they have for like when Teddy was like he was 19-year-old and he was
Yeah.
given the what do you call it, responsibility to take care of one of the girls when she was at the CDC center, and he like takes off his mouth guard and everything, and whatever. I just feel like, wouldn't he be in like full contamination gear? Like, why is he just like? And also, what will
Yeah.
this flimsy little thing do
Nothing.
if she's like got a second spine and
Yeah.
is like puking bile and things, which is like, or maybe they figured out that it's not contagious in that way.
It wasn't airborne, they
Yeah.
said.
Yes, but still touch. Like I
Yeah,
feel like
and I
there would be
guess
and
if
like
not
aeros-
airborne, it's like the droplets.
Yeah, or blood, or I feel like there could be a million other ways to sort
Yeah,
of get it
especially
from
when it's
contact like that.
yeah, when it's humanoids that just drip ooze from
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of things that just do
Yeah.
really.
Mm.
I don't, but I guess
Definitely.
it's just sometimes I know it. Sometimes you just have to like
Just
enjoy
be like,
it.
well,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know,
enjoy
but
the ride.
Sometimes I just can't do that. I'm sorry. It's okay book, but I didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't really like hook me. Like, oh, this is so
Right.
exciting. So the characters, I guess we talked about it, but we didn't really talk about. We can talk about both the relationship between the girls and can take that in the same run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, the only three characters that I sort of remember and remember the names of, it's Byatt, Hetty, and Reese. Byatt and Hetty are sort of the two main characters. Byatt and Hetty are best friends. They sort of or Hetty refers to Byatt as a sister, and they have that kind of relationship. And then at some point in the book, Hetty and Reese sort of get together as girlfriends. Came kind of out of the blue.
Yeah.
Do you think you thought that was out of the blue?
Yeah, I thought that was
Oh, really?
I had no idea that.
No,
a
I
thing.
was expecting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did
I
you
wasn't.
know it before that it was?
No, but there were hints, and
Yes.
I picked
Yes.
them up
Just
and
me.
went.
I don't have any
She has a crush on her.
I did not pick up on this.
No,
And
these
they-
things.
but
Yeah, but
They were small,
yeah,
But they were there.
Yeah.
sure, I believe you. I believe
and
you.
especially Hetty being all, oh no, don't open that
Yeah.
door.
Yeah.
She is a closed door.
Yes.
I can't.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think maybe the reasons that I didn't pick up on these things is because I just didn't care for any of the characters. At that point, when Reese and Hetty sort of realized that, oh, we have feelings for each other, that was the point where I'm just like, oh, this is a really good scene. This is a scene where
Yeah.
I'm invested in these characters, in their emotions, in their thoughts. But that was the only scene in like the whole book where I felt that. And then the rest I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, you guys are so boring. Oh, like I because Byatt gets separated from the other girls quite early in the book, and a lot of sort of Hetty's actions and reactions and thought processes throughout the books and motivations is that she wants to find Byatt or save her in some way, and I don't care. No, I don't feel that. I'm not. I don't give a shit. I give a shit about Hetty and Reese getting together because I like that. It was very cute. But no, I don't care what happens to the other. No.
I feel like we should switch the route here. Because
Okay.
When we get here, most things have been said. So I wanted,
Okay.
if we switch it and then we go that way.
Well, yes, and like I said, it was really. I had no idea the hints about because I felt like Reese was some. I don't know, like the popular girl that they were kind of afraid of.
Oh. No, she was like almost not bullied, but like
Yeah.
the
She
old bird
was?
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that impression.
Yeah,
too,
for
that
sure.
She kept to herself,
Yes.
kind of.
Didn't wear the same clothes.
No.
Like.
But
she,
they said something about that she always like got what she wanted. Or am I?
I think she
completely-
just doesn't care what other
Yeah.
people think. So
Yeah.
yeah, she just goes her own
And
way.
also, her family lived on the
Yeah,
island,
Yeah.
or her
Yeah.
father
Yes.
at least did.
Mm.
So I think maybe she had, before all this happened, at the school she was sort of privileged because, oh, her father lives on the island, or something like that.
Yeah, but he was the janitor.
Yeah, I don't think she was privileged. I do think
No, okay,
she
fair
got
enough,
she
fair
got into
enough.
the school because he was
Ah,
sort
okay.
of the groundskeeper or whatever. Like he
Yeah.
was he did everything kind
Yeah.
of. So I think she also felt like she didn't get there because
But
she
she
was
was
wealthy.
maybe not.
No.
Maybe privilege is not the right word, but she was treated differently
Yes.
because
Yes.
he was a
Mm.
janitor on the school. You
Yes.
know, it was a very different situation for
Yeah.
her as to why she was on the school.
But I didn't understand the reaction she got when Hetty got the boat ship. I do understand, yes, she wanted to see her father, but why so angry at Byatt? Because it was, at Hetty, because that wasn't her fault. And I
Yeah.
felt like she was a little bit like, I don't know, I don't
It's
understand it.
such a human thing.
It
Is
makes
it-
total sense.
Yeah,
to me.
it
I don't know.
is.
It's just
Yeah.
Maybe not in this book, but I've had colleagues that got mad at different colleagues that got promotions.
yeah. And
And
it's like why? Yeah.
It's just me.
and
then.
it's so
I don't
petty.
understand.
It's not rational,
Yeah.
No.
but it's very human.
Yes.
Like we all do
Yes.
it to some extent.
Yeah,
we're not
and this
may not be aware of it.
this
but we
colleague
do
I
it.
had, he went to the other guy who didn't apply for a job, but he needed to get that job because he was just better at it.
Yeah.
So they asked him, "Do you want to take this job?" And he went, "All right, yeah, why not?" And the other guy who actually applied for it went to him and told him, "You took my job."
Oh,
Yeah. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
But still, if she was in love with her, why that reaction?
But she didn't think that Hetty liked her in that way,
No.
like at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
She almost thought, to my interpretation, that Hetty was kind of in love with Byatt
Yeah.
more so.
And I also think that the reason, because Reese was in love with Hetty, that is one of the reasons why she did act as she did.
Yes.
Okay.
Because there were so many emotions
Yes.
involved in this.
Yes.
And I think one of the sort of points with this being a young adult is that these girls can't really control their emotions. They are not emotionally mature as adults would be.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that Hetty got boat ship and Reese didn't, one, she's jealous because she see that as her way of maybe contacting her father.
Yeah,
But it's also this girl I have a crush on is in this situation, and I'm just sort of there's love and there's jealousy and there's all these things brewing, and it just
Yeah.
sort of bubbles off the surface, and she can't control it, and she just acts. You know, it's very human.
Yeah. And also we've had like all of them are pretty much hungry the
Yeah.
entire time.
Yeah, a bit
How
aggressive.
they
Yeah,
even have
so-
civil conversations. No idea.
Oh, I'm such a bad human when I'm hangry.
Don't even talk
Yeah.
to me, and don't take anything I say personally. It's just hunger. And also, I feel like they have also sort of brewed a culture where it's okay to sort of attack each other.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
they attack each other over food, and
Over
they
food.
sort of like the three of them just haven't done a lot of harm to each other. So it did come out of the blue to Hetty, even though like it wasn't surprising, even though it doesn't make you like Reese more. But I don't need to like Reese. I can still get that she's emotional and
Yeah.
just be like, yeah, she hasn't gotten it figured out yet, and also she's hungry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know just because I didn't really listen that closely, because it didn't really interest me much, I guess I have missed a lot. So I kind of, this is me, school class. This book.
Yeah,
I don't know how you say that.
I have no
Just
idea either.
Skimmed.
Skimmed, yes.
Yes, this book. So I guess I didn't really.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Pick
listened
up.
to it at twice normal speed. So yes, I missed details as well. But if this had been a really, for sort of my personal standards, a really good book or a book that really fit me, then I wouldn't do that, and then I would probably not listen to it as an audiobook. But that's that's besides the point. The point is that because I think the main reason is that I don't like the characters, so that means that I speed things up. I speed up the narration because I just sort of feel like I want to get the plot going because I don't care about the characters. I don't care what they're talking about. I don't care about their relationships for the most part. And then sort of automatically it means that I miss details because I just don't pay attention. I fully admit that. And that's on me. But if I don't care, that's how it's gonna go. You know, I don't always give a crap. I had similar
sometimes
problems
you
with
just
another
I will get through this book because I want to be a part of the discussion, but I didn't really care. But I didn't think it was. I mean, I have read a lot of more awful books than this, but it didn't really interest me.
All right. Yeah.
So yeah.
I like it.
me too. Even if we wouldn't have this discussion, when I got through, I don't know, 30% of it, I knew I wanted to finish it. So
I would. Well, okay. So I'm someone who usually finish a book if she starts them, but I would never have started this book if it wasn't for the book discussion, because I kind of knew from the beginning that this is not actually my type of book.
Yeah.
But we're gonna discuss it, so I'm gonna read it. But I think if I were someone who DNF'd the books, you know, who stopped reading books and then didn't pick them up again, I would have gotten like 20 pages, and then I was just like, nope.
yeah.
But sometimes you know, like you can only take a chapter and you know that it's not working exactly for you.
And it was like that for me here, I think. Except for a few scenes in the books that I really liked. It was mostly just boring.
I think some books are like some kind of trial for me, because I like to broaden my my genres. So a lot of books usually doesn't seem like my kind of books, but once I get going, I realize, ooh, I actually like this.
Once I sort of understood that there were some parallels to Annihilation in this, that really sort of elevated it for me, because then I was like, I really like Annihilation, and if I can sort of in my head put the same spin on this one, then yes, I can make it work for me. But what actually happened in this book? What are the plot? What's the event?
I guess there are a lot of questions I want to answer to. That was happening.
I guess the thing that drives Hetty was that Byatt was getting taken away from the island.
Yeah.
And that's
but I never felt like that was actually like, yes, I know, because we're told sort of that Hetty really wants to find Byatt after she has disappeared. But I never feel that urgency of it. No. I never feel like there's like, I never feel like that actually leads to a lot of things happening.
No.
A lot of things happen inside of Hetty in how she thinks of this, how she reacts emotionally to Byatt being missing. But like actual plot events, I don't feel like there are a lot. Like this, the plot in this book is half of the thickness of this. This is double the length than it should be, is what I'm saying.
All right.
With the amount of actual plot that is in it. There's a lot of character portraits and a lot of like study of human behavior and human interaction, especially when it comes to young adult people, and that's fine. But there aren't a lot of plot, and I think that's my main problem.
I think you're onto something though, because like if you don't like the characters, if you don't like spending a lot of time inside their head, inside like how they interpret things happening around them, their memories, then of course you're not gonna like it, because like teenagers do spend a lot of time, like especially like they have all the time in the world to think. in this
Yeah.
book, really, like they don't have any classes or anything basically, so they can just roam around and think. And if you don't like the characters, if you don't want to know what they're thinking, then it's not gonna be a good book for you. Like
I think
I understand your emotions. To me, I almost felt like, oh, things are moving so fast. I didn't remember things moving so fast the first time around I was reading it. But then I was reading it like this, and now I had it on like double speed on audio. So, and I just said, oh, they're already like at the cabin now, and like, oh, they're already like at the boat, like getting the food now. Like to me, things were kind of moving fast, actually. So I was a bit surprised by that, and also like, oh, there's a bear, and I was like, yeah, right, there was a bear here now. So I was honestly surprised at the amount of things that were happening. So I think it's kind of fascinating that you can have such like a vastly different experience
fast
with the same book.
Fast is not the word I would use.
Yeah, but I would. I did feel like it was fast moving. But it's also interesting because I read a book that I definitely did not have a good time with, and that is Upgrade by Blake Crouch, I believe his last name is. And in that book you could argue that there's a lot of scenes and there's a lot of action and things happening the entire time, and a lot of things are explained to you the entire time, and but my god, was that book boring. I finished it because I've liked two other books of Blake Crouch a lot, but like that third book I was like, my god, I'm getting so many action scenes and so many things happening, but nothing is happening at all, and we're all I was just like, and that's an adult book, so I can't even say like, well, maybe that's the young adult factor. No, that's just like the
I'm not asking for like the Da Vinci Code or something. It doesn't have to take place over 12 hours.
You don't want him to spend 15 minutes on the lock and
No, I don't need that. But I do prefer my books a little bit more fast-paced than this.
Yeah.
I do, yes.
Well, I kind of like what you said before. It would be more interesting if we followed the girls when they didn't have the talks, when it kind of started on the island. But that maybe have been more slow. I don't know. But then we really...
I'm like, thank God the eye is already like weird and shit. I'm like, yes, start here. I don't care like when they are like signing their papers for the tuition and things like that. Get me to the weird stuff. I'm happy with that.
If they
It's
made
more
a
like
movie adoption, I'm just hoping they have flashbacks too when it breaks out.
Yes.
It's just the mystery of it. That's some. I want it be weird in nature, kind of, before it kind of creeps on you, more like an eerie feeling of something weird is happening.
I think it was a good balance between suspense and inner dialogue and things actually happening around. It made it fast-paced but also slow-paced. So
Like you said, I didn't really like the character because you really didn't know the character. That's what you got to know Byatt a little bit more after it, but I feel like, I don't know, but I kind of like that. I don't have to have like action all the time, but I really need to have a good arc of the character to like them, and I didn't really feel that. You were just put in this situation and just... I didn't really connect with these characters.
I don't think I understood Byatt.
No.
Because
I don't care for Byatt.
I did. I did. I liked her character.
That was so dumb.
No, I liked her chapters the most.
Oh no.
Yeah, because you got to see the other side. You didn't just stay on the school and the island. You knew things were happening there. So I liked. I liked seeing the CDC and some Hetty chapters. I just went faster. I want back to Byatt. I want to know more what's happening there.
I was the other way around, because at that point, when we start to have chapters from Byatt's perspective, at around the same point, Reese and Hetty are also sort of getting together as
Yeah.
a couple.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
And that was like the only character arc plotline that I was really invested in. So I was just like, that happened, and they sort of confessed feelings for each other, and then there was Byatt's chapter, and I was just like, no, I don't want that right now, please.
I love how we liked or disliked this book in so different ways. No,
It's a good conversation, if
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yes.
and the
very
thing
much.
is, I wasn't emotionally attached to Byatt, but I really liked her chapters.
Because you wanted to know about the
Yeah,
experience and that.
right. But
I can totally understand that. That's yeah, that's a good point.
so even if the characters wasn't what got you hooked, there were the things around them that made it
If-
interesting.
And I'm sort of trying. I'm rewriting the book in my head right now.
Yeah.
Is it
If-
any good?
I hope so. I think so. Scratch Byatt completely.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh
And
no!
then we only have
How dare you!
yes, Hetty and Reese, and they get together early in the book, but then they get separated because Hetty ends up where Byatt is on the
Oh,
CLT.
okay.
Yeah.
I like when romantic love isn't the only motivator
Sure.
in a book for someone
Sure.
to save someone else. It's one of my least favorite tropes is when someone's spouse dies and they try to get revenge, or someone's spouse or child is taken away and they try to get to them. But especially spouses and girlfriends and boyfriends and things like that.
Sure. Good point. Yes.
Yes, I do think it's more interesting to me that Hetty sort of has kind of like adopted this sort of trio as a family, and that just her feeling like I need to save my best friend, my sister, who has helped me become a better person and who has been there for me for everything,
Sure.
and not just be like, oh, I want to get laid, I gotta get to my yes over there.
To my honey!
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I like that. I think it's
Yeah,
almost
right.
rare, and that's why I think
Sure.
it's kind of great. And also I really like Reese's and Hetty's romance. I think it's like I get that two out of 4 here didn't get the hints. I thought those were handled in a more interesting way than usually, like where we get my heart stopped a little bit, or like we didn't get all that. Like she had really closed off that part of herself, and she didn't really. And I like that, and I also really like the scene where Reese and Hetty both understand that they are in love with each other, and that it's not drawn out in just for the sake of being drawn out and being a dramatic point to draw out. More that it's wait, we both feel this way, or do we? Can you just say what you say, and then they actually say it instead of playing this.
Well, yeah,
mouse
that was
cat
refreshing.
game. Yes, and I just
I
like thank you
And
for like portraying
Yes.
that kind of interaction
Yeah.
instead of like going the usual route for more like of a sort of cheap way to sort of get more drama. out of it. Yeah, because then the drama comes from other things that happen to them, like with Reese's father, and it's sort of like the limits we have to cross for survival, and then how that messes up relationships. I think that is really interesting, and it's a breath of fresh air. And I just
I think it's very grounding because I can see these situations happening to myself, where you know for a fact, oh no, that person doesn't like me back, and just stop feeling like this. It's just not going to happen ever, and that has happened to me so many times. And like you said, it's more Reese's father, the situation around that. Because one trope I'm very sick of is miscommunication. And
I know.
drama
like these
happening
I
because
hate that.
people doesn't talk.
And people lie for no reason.
Yeah, right.
That's also something I like.
Or they don't say it clearly, like they just like the miscommunication thing. They like, well, if you added 2 more sentences to that, then that person would have the whole situation and would like.
Yeah. So very refreshing.
Yeah.
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 Really good points you're both making here, and I do agree in general terms with what you're saying, even if I maybe not the details for this specific book, but in general, yes. I think the reason why I would have liked my version better is because, as it is, I don't actually care of Hetty's and Byatt's relationship to each other as friends/sisters, and I never care. I don't care what happens to Byatt, and that sort of ruins the motivation for a lot of what happens in the book. Because like the main plot point is Byatt is missing, Hetty wants to get to her, and I just don't care about any of that.
Because we don't really
But if
get
it
to
was
know what
Hetty
happened.
and Reese instead,
Yes.
Go save her!
if it was Hetty and Reese instead, then I would have cared.
Yeah.
Because I care about them, those two together.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's
All right.
that was what
Yeah.
I was getting at. Yes.
Yeah.
Some other characters I just want to brush upon a little bit. Taylor and Mrs. Welch. Because in this book, they are portrayed as one type of person, and then it just needs a twist at the end that what they wanted wasn't what it was portrayed that they wanted. And I'm not sure what I thought about that. If it was this miscommunication we talked about, if it was put in those characters instead. So we thought that they were evil when they turned out to be good, and that whole thing.
I think Welch is kind of weird. Because I never really got the sense that she was evil. Like she took away the food that wasn't good, but then of course like there was the carrying out the body, and I don't know.
I didn't understand that term she used. Like, I want to make a return.
Right.
That came with
Well,
me a
in
long
the
time, and I was
walkie-talkie to the
what did she
mainland.
mean by that? What do you
I
mean
don't
a
remember the
return?
context.
Yeah,
I think
give us
anymore.
context.
I think she's talking about Byatt, but I'm not sure about that. But yes.
But was
Hetty
Yeah.
was trying to find Byatt.
Uh-huh.
Just the context.
Mhm.
She goes to the where the sick people are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Infirmary.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
infirmary. That and she kind of creeps around there and in the dark, and then Miss Welch gets there and talks to someone
Mm-hmm. On
That-
the mainland.
on the mainland. That's what we think anyway.
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh, we need to make a return." And
Well, she's
I-
probably because if you're in a store and you
Mm,
buy something and then you get home and you figure, no, I don't actually like this,
yeah,
and then you go back to the store and then you say, I would like to make a
Make a
return, which is give the goods back and get the money. So,
yeah.
yeah, and I think it's something like that, but I don't know exactly what they're
But
talking about.
that's
But
like
but,
Byatt did.
but
I
are
don't
we
understand.
sure they're talking about Byatt though? I
I'm
don't
not
remember
sure.
this
I
at all.
thought she did.
Or are they talking about Mona? Because they were going to meet up at the Harker house, and that's where they dropped off the body.
Yeah.
But all the other girls, they burned
Yeah,
when they
I didn't
died.
understand that.
So-
either. But maybe they didn't. Maybe they told that they burned them, or did they see them burn?
Or sometimes they brought the body back, like
But I was feeling
because they
like,
dissected
did they
her.
put the tox
Yeah.
there? Because so that's what I believed.
But no,
Like,
they
you need
didn't.
to make it-
no,
no, but
that-
just because
it's
she
creeped
used
up
that.
from the
Yeah, I know.
from the Arctic snow or whatever.
Yeah, I know. But just because you used that term, I didn't understand that.
I think it's just talking about goods in
Yeah.
the
Goods,
way,
yeah,
and the
in a way,
goods
okay.
might be a human, or it might
Yeah.
be the food, or whatever.
Ah.
But it's just I would like to make a return,
Yeah.
which is take it from the island and back
Yeah.
to the mainland.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's
Talking
that.
in a bit
yeah.
of code.
But I don't
too.
remember that scene at all. So
Me neither.
Mm.
Yeah.
That just
I
stuck
was
with me
like,
for
yeah,
some reason.
Yeah.
and
I thought that was kind
yeah.
of some kind of a cool code, but it
okay.
much bigger meaning than it
Speaking
really
of,
was.
I don't know, something. What do you feel about, because they like when there's been a breach, so Reese and Hetty cross the fence and leave a door open, and then something else happens, which makes the CDC send a batch of canisters that will kill them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is that the most effective way, or would, like they always do in the movies?
Sorry.
In the movies where they always like, oh, let's nuke the place.
Nuke the place.
Yeah.
They
But
they do that later, didn't they?
Yeah, maybe they were jets or something.
They were
like
jets
that.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just like, why wouldn't they nuke things immediate? I don't know.
Yeah,
And
It's
and
weird.
that-
Everything is too weird
instead
about
of
them.
really
indirectly
ineffective way.
telling the girls we're going to kill you.
Or send chocolate bars that are laced with something because they all wanted chocolate.
Oh,
so just give
no
them-
one would refuse the chocolate.
I would not refuse the chocolate. It's smelling a bit weird.
Yeah, but they have eaten mold bread
Right, but they
and.
wouldn't be able to tell. Give them chocolate
Alright.
with the gunpowders in it.
Right.
So that was just like one of the things I was like, I don't know if I like this scenario, but what the hell?
Maybe if I can kill Lisa
Go for it.
a little bit, maybe the author had just watched / read Annihilation and read about World War II. With the
Oh.
gas and experimentation,
Yeah.
because they did that
Yeah.
during that period, and just merged those two together
Yeah,
to
why
make
not? Yeah.
this book.
Yeah.
Our discussion right now is reminding me of something, and everybody's the only one who's gonna get this. It's reminding me of the Alpha incident.
Why though?
Don't you remember the end? They like.
Why are you bringing up this?
Is this a
This is
film?
this is a really bad film that we
I
watched
have
for our
spent
podcast.
so many years, I feel like, trying to get rid of this shitty film. And now you bring it up.
But at the end, the people who are quarantined, you know, they're
Yeah,
isolated.
Unfortunately, I do remember that part.
And they get killed. They don't get nuked
Yeah.
exactly, but they get
Yeah.
essentially wiped.
Yeah. My God. Whatever you do, people, do not watch the Alpha incident. It might be available on YouTube, but for the love of don't. Unless you want a new low bar for how bad a film can be, then the Alpha incident is perfect. Perfect.
I'm kind of interested now.
Don't pitch it!
I like that.
Yeah, we both went, "Ooh, what are you saying?"
I pitched it to you as sort of the worst movie I've ever seen.
Yes.
And you were just like, oh, we gotta watch it for the
Yes.
podcast. And I'm just like,
And I've
So,
never regretted the decision
yes,
more in my life.
that was the third time I had seen that movie at that time.
Oh wow,
Torture.
Yeah.
that's a lot of
I
time.
have it on DVD.
Perfect.
You say. Oh my God.
But
So
that's a really deep cut.
Yeah.
You should write a blurb for.
This reminds us of the Alpha incident.
Oh no.
So about the end, did you like the end? But I will just start to say that I really just I didn't really understand all the conclusion. So if you want to explain the conclusion to me, I did understand the thing about the parasite getting from the Arctic or something, but that's kind of it.
Let me get back to you in an hour.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe when I've read the
I'd
ending.
say that's it. Like there isn't much more to it. Like yeah, it was Parasite.
But what happened to the girls? Most of them died, but they did get off the island.
You're talking about after the canister thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know that though, because like we only spend time with Reese and Hetty and then Byatt, and we don't know what happens in that's one. It's
don't-
kind of frustrating.
We don't know what happened to Byatt because they just found the parasite she took
No,
out.
we know what happened to Byatt.
Did we?
Yeah,
Did she
they
die?
find Byatt.
They find
this
Byatt.
is major
This is-
spoiler,
yeah,
but
This is major
one
spoiler.
of you don't care and the other one is soon there. So
Yeah.
but they find Byatt, and how so they kind of say like, oh, because she's cut the parasite out, and Hetty's reflecting and thinking like, oh, it kind of feels like some parts of Byatt went with the parasite, like the life and some parts of Byatt went with that, but we don't know because she's been sitting in snow, super cold,
Right.
Okay, this is
traumatized probably. She can barely walk. I mean, we don't. She hasn't even spoken yet, so it's a very open-ended ending.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm a massive fan of the ending because I feel like, okay, so now I'm kind of interested, like what happens when the parasite sort of hits the mainland? Like they didn't do a good job with containing this thing unless they moved the circle that we talked about way back in our discussion. So we don't know. How's Byatt doing? We don't know.
No.
Is she gonna survive without the parasite now? Because
Alright,
I mean,
one thing I really don't get is how can this girl live with a parasite in their bodies for 1.5 years and it doesn't multiply? It doesn't.
I don't think all parasites do though.
Not
No.
the tapeworms.
It doesn't.
I just think you have one worm and then
Alright,
that's it.
yeah.
And you.
I just assumed that they wanted hosts to.
Multiplying.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I
because
think
that is what drives most animals, including humans in general. They want their arvsmassa. The
Genetic
but it is
material.
the parasite and everything. It is spreading. Like it is spreading. Like they are maybe sharing the same cutleries or going to the same bathroom. Like they are getting their saliva like exchanged in all these ways, and that's how. Somehow, maybe there are like tiny eggs or something in the saliva and everything. Like they're just like, and that's how it's spreading. I guess. I don't know. But there's just one parasite in every one of them.
But
Yeah.
they are still on the island in the end.
They are in a boat.
They were in
though.
a boat.
So I think they are either
okay.
leaving the island or they were very close to the mainland or something. But they are in a boat and getting away.
The apocalypse is near.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
are patient zero.
Yeah. I just have to make an confession here, because I have very good like imagination and always have really good pictures in my head, but I had so much trouble seeing this in winter. She did mention it several times. I was like, oh right, it's in winter. Okay.
Me too.
And I
honestly,
tried to
yeah.
make it back to that, but then I was again. It was summer
autumn the
again.
whole time. Like it was November for me.
Okay, it
not
was summer,
yeah,
so
before,
it was completely
before,
wrong.
snow, and then I was like, oh, it's snowing.
Yeah, I pictured it without snow. And
Yeah, I didn't realize there was snow.
no, me neither.
Right.
They had big jackets and they talked about it being cold.
Cold.
So
Right?
Oh.
Yes,
Yes,
they did.
They
Yeah.
did describe it, but I don't know if it just because it is
I didn't pick up on that at all. So
No, I
Didn't
remember
matter.
being cold and everything,
Yeah.
but not
Not-
winter.
I
Not like
think-
late autumn.
I think
kind of
the
cold.
way I imagine it is like a wet, cold day in Sweden, and they are the same all year round.
The island of everlasting wet cold day of Sweden.
Exactly.
Oh my
Yeah, I
god.
don't know.
sounds like Gothenburg.
Yeah, I don't know because I pictured summer for some weird
No,
reason. Maybe
because-
just because there is a summer right now.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's because
Usually.
they still had the flowers blooming.
That might be.
But I don't know. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
just because I had a picture from the beginning and didn't realize it was winter.
Yeah.
For a bit in, and then I just couldn't change it for some
Yeah.
reason. I really tried.
I can get sometimes like that. Not maybe for this one specifically, but I've read books where the hair color of like the main character isn't described until later in the book. And I
Yeah.
have imagined her as brown hair, and then she's described as blonde, and I
Doesn't-
can't
change it.
I can't change it.
No,
It's fixed
yeah.
already.
Yeah.
For me, weirdly, like it's not always like I don't always see them. Like I don't see someone with a specific hair color or anything. Like it's just like it's there. So I don't always have like super vivid images of everything. Like sometimes it's just like like it doesn't matter really. Like it's just. I don't
But they've actually done I think some really interesting studies of that. Like if you see a picture of an apple, for some people it's just it's an apple, you know. But some people they go like, oh, it's a red apple. That means it tastes kind of like this, and it's this kind, and you know they can sort of just by looking at the apple, they can add a lot of extra information that isn't actually in the image, but they're just sort of added automatically, and that varies vastly from person to person. Yeah,
Definitely.
I think I'm someone who adds a lot of details that aren't actually there.
Yes.
Too much sometimes.
And I just have a hard time like changing something I have imagined in the beginning. And I don't know, I think I kind of made up that picture even before I started reading it. And that's the problem.
Is it because it's pink and it's flowers and it's very pretty and the blue sky?
Actually, I think it was because we talked about reading this book because we are on an island right now. And it's summer, so I was kind of just thinking, okay, island summer. So that's what I'm picturing. So I was kind of thinking about Saltkråkan in the beginning. Yeah, I know.
Okay, no.
I
was thinking like some dark academia.
Oh my god, this
I
is not
know.
Astrid Lindgren.
No, I know. I know, but that kind of just the.
You
like
wanna
the
read
picture.
Saltkråkan next time?
Yeah, but I just picture that kind of island for some reason. I know. Everything was wrong. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's Spider Girls.
Yeah.
And we
Recommended by some, not by others.
It was a really good discussion we had.
yeah.
Yes.
It was definitely.
Alright, so
yeah.
next month we are reading Pisces
Yes.
by
Melissa Broder, I think her name is. Pronunciation unclear.
Yeah.
I want to say Broder, man. That's
Alright.
That's not her last name.
Ruder.
your own interpretation.
I don't quite see the letters in front of me, but by placing information inside them, I made this conclusion.
Yes. The theme was mermaids, mer
Yes.
people, something like that. Yes.
Fish tails, let's say.
Fish tails. Yes.
Or fish
Maritime
princesses.
tale.
Woo! Interesting. Yes.
So
Yeah.
So bye.